There are kind of a lot of abnormality based around health institutions, don't you think? Greek ones are obvious, but it's not only them. And, as I recently discovered, I love to analyze similar abnormalities. Like how two fiery shooters with different flame colors are actually completely different, or that a butterfly and a passenger are actually the same thing. I did not specifically intend for this, and this is the last video with this pattern, but funny how that happened. Anyway, today we are looking at every, with an asterisk, medical abnormality, trying to get their themes and understand how they are different from each other. The Greek ones. It is them who are usually referred as the hospital-themed abnormalities. You don't need a video analysis of mine to see that these things are similar. They are all some body horror, Silent Hill vibe, doctor-looking monsters whose names are of Greek mythology creatures. They are probably related to Otis. It is boring to say that abnormality based on one specific culture will be relevant to this culture's scener, but the Cyclops is just a polyphemus from the book, so yeah, they will be relevant. Interesting how specifically they will be connected, because, well, they can't put all of them into her battle pass. This will be beyond lame and lazy. And there's not enough space either. My guess is that it will be just the Cyclops, but we'll get to it later. Let's stick to a more sensible order. Nymph was the first one of the batch, being in the game from the beginning. Mirror of the beginning, I mean. It is someone who works here, a nurse most likely. It gives blood to everyone who needs it, and if you don't need it, you will. It very actively wants to give you its blood, regardless of your opinion. Abnormality is, of course, about the typical fear of doctors, but more precisely, a fear of being drugged with unneeded medication. Vaccines chat, am I right? Am I based? Sorry. You're in a vulnerable position, you know nothing about any of the stuff, you can only trust the personnel to do everything right. Like, when I was younger, I was hysterical about taking any medicine, because what if I don't actually need it? What if I take too much? What if this one will lower my temperature so much that I'll die? General idea of unnecessary treatment that can even harm you. And, even more precisely, blood donors. Blood is a scary topic, a scary thing to put in yourself. Like, of course it was checked a million times, of course everyone is responsible with giving you this, but what if? And Nymph is forcing you to accept it, even changing you that way that you will surely need this. Another, more abstract theme that we can see from the second choice option in the mirror dungeon is someone who wants to help when their help is not needed. I can fix him, and all. It takes away from itself, giving everything to someone else. When we pity it and try to help, it not only rejects us, showing that it's alright on its own, but also forces a think onto us. Why is it a nymph? I am not really sure. I generally don't think that there is any particular reason why they decided to go with a modern hospital iconography for the Greek-themed abnormalities. Just their vibe of choice. We will probably get it better with Content 12, when we'll see more of Greek stuff. But anyway, other ones have a pretty obvious visual inspiration from their mythological counterpart, while this one does not. Nymphs usually are just pretty humans, so maybe it was the idea. Centaur's top half look kind of the same, and Centaurus' top halves are supposed to be just humans. Nymphs are the spirits of some specific location they inhabit, incarnations of nature. So maybe this is it, an incarnation of hospitals? Maybe, if we really do want to find a connection to Otis, we can look at Calypso. She forces Odysseus to stay with her, she is helping, just like the blood really does heal us, she literally wants to make him immortal, but Odysseus doesn't want any of it, he just wants to go home. She forces her love onto him. And she's a nymph, of course, there are not a lot of important nymphs in the Odyssey. Some small silly stuff, it makes the same noise as the puppeteer's puppets. I guess it's like muscle and bone twisting or something, pretty weird, I wouldn't write it like that to be honest. It's ego gift called phlebotomy pack. Phlebotomy is a medical term for a process of taking blood from a vein with a needle. And, like, nobody calls the thing a phlebotomy pack. In Korean it's called literally blood collecting bag. English translation team sometimes really likes to use some complex terminology for the sake of it. I don't mean it in a bad way, but it really is silly. Foreshadowing, by the way. Centaur's name is much easier to understand. While the top half look almost like the nymph, its bottom half is a metal frame of a hospital bed. It's tied to a bed, both in literal and in a commonly used sense. Just like the nymph, it has an IV bag, or should I say a phlebotomy pack, that siphons something, but unlike the Nymph, who willingly sacrifices its blood to give it to others, Centaur is drained against its will. It was lying here for an unfathomable amount of time, waiting to be cured, enough time to become one with the bed. But the truth is, this place was actually making everything worse. Perhaps the line was siphoning concentration rather than supplying it. Centaur's and Nymph's ideas are similar, but shown from different perspectives. While Nymph is a bad doctor hurting at patients, Centaur is a hurt patient. Again, a general fear of doctors, a thought that they want to harm you, but now spiced with an ability to do anything for a long time. Dreading feeling that you may never rise from this bed again, seeing death as the only liberation. One day, when the bed collapses and its wheels can no longer turn, it will finally be able to leave the hospital. Interesting how despite clearly being a patient, it's in a nurse uniform. Not sure what to get from it. This work is siphoning life from the med personnel? A depressing job that seemingly will only end after your demise? Suffering from the system? Workers' abuse? Oh no, it's butterflies and passengers all over again. There are, sadly, no Centaurs in the Odyssey. This is partly the reason why I think it is boring to connect Hospital Quartet to Otis alone. She's not the only senior with deep Greek connection. Half of the Faust is about Greece. And you know who is in the Faust? Chiron, the Centaur. While centaurs are usually portrayed as brutal barbarians, Chiron, raised and trained by Apollo, is actually a wise sage, specifically known for his knowledge of medicine. Honestly, beside medicine connection, he's not really relevant here. His role in the book is non-intentionally guiding Faust closer to Helen, while he wanted to heal his delusions of getting her. He is also a good representation of one of the main book themes, a contrast of physical and spiritual. He's a perfect fuse, a natural physical barbaric horse and a highly spiritual wise person. Yeah, I don't think that this abnormality is about all that, but connection to the medicine is indeed interesting. Maybe we should look more into Chiron himself and not at his role in the Faust. I still don't think so. He just doesn't have this aesthetic of a victim. I can point at the fact that he died of an arrow caught in the blood of the Hydra, and Hydra being a surgeon and abnormalities narrative, I can say that this can be an allegory to the aforementioned worker abuse, nurse and doctors and all. But you know... Chiron also is mentioned a couple of times in the Iliad. A few times it's about his medical skills and how he teaches Achilles, and a few times it's about a spear that he gave to Achilles. Speaking of Hydra, its name is even more simple. There is not even some clever playing with the theme, like bad equals horse. This is just a monster with a ton of heads. The Hydra. This one represents a surgeon. Stakes are higher, it's not a patient and not a mere nurse. Similarly to the Nymph, it's about some intervention in your body. But it's not drugs, it's about surgically changing you. Moreover, it acts really creepy about it. It will be the newest patient of our hospital. This is a small garden and haven. They will be on good terms with other patients. It wants to make you different and think about this as something beautiful. You will be like everyone else. You will fit, it will be great for you. Of course, this is largely about lobotomy. Slicing your brain up, because on the other side, something is wrong with you. That part about Garden and Haven is a big reason why I put it so high on our Hanluega probability tier list. A really specific and interesting iconography. We don't really know from whose perspective all those Mirror Dungeons events are written. Sometimes they're using you, sometimes they're using we, sometimes they're using me. I always assume that the narrator is Dante. Nothing really contradicts it, and this is quite expected. They are on an expedition in the dungeon. Who else would describe things that they are seeing? With that in mind, their commentary on that abnormality is quite bizarre. We suffered many wounds on the way here, big and small. Whether it's the body or the mind, wounds need to be treated in time. If it's allowed to develop into a scar, it will not go away for certain. It's like they see this heinous desire of normality to lobotomize us as something logical and cool. Like, oh, how sweet of it. And it kind of makes sense. Dante switched their head with a clock, after all. Of course they see nothing wrong with something like this, looking at the potential benefits first. Semblance of past opinions are cracking through the amnesia. Even in the fail check result, they're defending the abnormality, telling that this failure is not its fault, and every doctor can mess up. Even though it's the easiest of the bunch to get why it got its name, it's tricky to get what it means. I can get the vibe of a lot of surgeons luring over you. When you're at the operation table, there are usually a lot of people, and that can feel even more pressuring. We can play with the slay one head get two gimmick of the Hydra to see something like a doctor so bad that you will need two more after him, a fear of being in a constant need of medical attention, every operation will be followed by more and more. Also, the blood of the Hydra was poisonous, so... and like, something that is harmful and bad but can be used in a healing way? I don't know. Did you ever think that it kind of looks like Kim Kitsuragi? I can't unsee it from the day of its release. While we are already on the joke about similarities, did you know that Cyclops looking like Kim Ji-hoon is a big meme in Korean fandom? To the point that Ji-hoon asked Don Juan about it being intentional or not. It is not, sadly. As I alluded to, Cyclops is quite different from other abnormalities in this list. It's based on Polyphemus, a character that's responsible for Otis calling herself Otis, so it's the only one directly referencing the Odyssey. Main part of its Mirror Dungeon event is information about a specific person being obscured, so it's the only one directly referencing Otis, this being part of her introduction. It generally does not vibe with other Greek abnormalities, really. Hospital does not look the way it does on backgrounds of other ones, it's much brighter, it's not even scary, because unlike other ones, it does not try to be scary. Its themes are not really about something medical. It's not really a hospital-themed abnormality, only with a stretch. It does not even work here, it's only a visitor. So, what is it about? I want to say that it is about bureaucracy, a power that a piece of paper can have. Cyclops himself is definitely some sort of a thug, a role-fitting portrayal of Polyphemus in the book. It dressed in somewhat official clothes that styled messy and nonchalantly. It has a briefcase and an obsession with watches, but also is smoking. It wants to exude power and authority with its look, but it is in fact a crude goon. For some reason, it wants to do something with a patient from room 409, but even someone of its power can do anything because of this piece of paper, a non-disclosure agreement. If you tell it the truth about this document and it believes you, it's enraged. I knew it, but the patient was... But the patient was someone who hurt me, who pierced my eye. How and why are they protected? I need to get them. Even there, Cyclops stops himself from telling us who the patient was. Maybe it's just because it's so mad that it can't speak without trashing, but maybe because it legally can't. If you tell it the truth and it does not believe you, don't lie to me, the patient in room 409 is... They can't be protected. They hurt me. My daddy Poseidon must do something about it. It's all a lie. And similarly, if you tell it there is nothing important in this document, it believes that whoever gave this to it was lying about that content. Because that one can't be protected. All of this, of course, is a blatant reference to the iconic part of the Odyssey, when Odysseus, introducing himself as nobody, attacked Polyphemus. And when he cried that nobody is attacking him, no one came to help. I wonder why. So, Abnormality wants to get retribution, but because of some nuance, it just can't. While Cyclops tries and fails to reach a patient specifically to harm them, we can look at this concept and some different angles. What if you want to be with patient because, well, you want to be with them? It's someone important for you and they got here. But you can't go there, only relatives are allowed. Maybe you are the most important person to them, but you're never married, so legally you're nobody. You have nothing to do but to wait in the corridor, powerless against the written rules. Quick thing, I don't do any prediction in this video because there's a lot of abnormalities and it will take a long time. But Heathcliff works so cool here, like, he's a thug, duh. He wants to reach Catherine, but they can't let him in, and he can't even talk about her. Like, legal things as allusion to being erased and all. Anyway, last interesting note. Both English and Korean wiki make similar but different assumptions, and I find it really funny. English wiki says that perhaps the room is exactly 409 because the 409th line in the 9th book is a moment where Polyphemus cries for help. And Korean wiki says that perhaps the room is exactly 409 because 409th line in the 19th book is a moment where Odysseus' father gave him his name. What more can prove the strangeness of a theory than the fact that we can stretch different lines to it, and it still would have meaning? But I still like to think that it was intentional. I like this kind of things. Korean wiki is wrong, by the way. His grandfather gave him his name, not his father. That's it for the Greek quartet. A story about scary hospitals told through evil doctors and scarred patients. And also Cyclops is here for whatever reason. Can't wait for them to drop the 5th member in Kanto 8's mirror dungeon. But, before moving on, let's talk about Otis one more time. Her base ego has a shadow of Kadus, a staff of Hermes. I saw people pointing this as another connection between her and Abnormalities, as if Kadus is a symbol of medicine. And this is an interesting topic, because it is false. Kadus is not a symbol of medicine, rather of Asclepius is. But because they look so similar, Kadus is mistakenly used in this way so often that it kind of gains this meaning, even though it has nothing to do with medicine in mythology. So, Project Moon could really have meaning this way. Maybe they want Otis to have a connection to medicine that will be explained in her Kanto. Like, maybe Wing based on Greece will be all about that. But I doubt that, honestly. More likely, Kadus here is just because of Hermes. He played a role in the Odyssey, even if not one of big importance. He warned Odysseus about Circe, helped him to stand against her, saving him and his crew. I'm not sure why they want to make this such an important moment for the character, going as far as putting it as Ego's shadow. But yeah, I guess we can only wait. Also, in some instances Hermes is Odysseus' great-great-grandfather. You know how mythology can be. Here this one is the son of this one, but here's he's the one of this one. It is not the case in Odyssey though. Now we can forget Greece entirely and look at what other abnormalities can offer us. And they can offer a lot. I saved the most interesting ones for the end. If you are still here, I want to remind you that I have Patreon and Boosty, with occasional video spoilers and maybe something interesting in the future. But first and foremost, it is a way for you to help me out a bit. Consider subscribing if you can, I would really appreciate it. I bet you did not expect this one to be our next topic, but we are moving to Cozy Bed. Cozy Bed is, shocker, not a hospital-themed abnormality. But wait, bear with me, I want to look specifically at Gregor's ego. There, Abnormalities takes form as hospital bed, not at all like its appearance at Ishmael's ego or its mirror dungeon event. Why so? This abnormality is about a monster under your bed, feeling that something is looming over or under you while you're in your most vulnerable position. Your bed must protect you from everything, you're giving yourself into its embrace, you trust it with keeping you safe for the whole night, and yet something is off. You sense that something absolutely horrible is happening, but every time when you check, nothing is there. You're just imagining it. There can't be any monsters. It's your bed and you must be safe here. But you can't shake this feeling off. This is a broad theme that can fit a lot of different aesthetics, and medical is one of them. And that's also perfect for Gregor. He was abused by his mother, a trusted figure that's supposed to protect you. He grew up in a hospital-like environment and constantly was undergoing procedures to enhance him. This is something that my mother wants. This is something that will make me better. It's all for a purpose. Nothing is wrong with it. One of many patients that lie on those metal beds, trying to convince themselves that everything is fine, that doctors can do anything that will harm them. In Gregor's case, it's all of course even worse. He became the monster under his bed. He is scared of himself, scared of what he can do, what he can transform into. To him, it's not just an ability of being safe in his own bed, he can't be safe in his own body. To him, something is off constantly. Gregor in some way is a perfect singer for this video. His story not only fits the narrative about mistreated patients, that's what most hospitals and abnormalities have, he's a rare case where he fits in the aesthetic of it. He will be a perfect pick for Centaur, and an interesting one for Hydra and Nymph, as an exploration of an idea where he became the abuser. The only other sinner that can probably fit that criteria is Faust, but it is hard to tell without seeing her Kanto. Ishmael sadly does not get the same treatment. We will look at her ego in like a couple of years, when I'll do all Ishmael's egos explained. It is kinda the same, except change the hospital to the ship and Herman to Ahab. For now, we are moving on. Forsaken Murderer is an amazing and deep abnormality that looks shallow on the first glance. Let's not beat around the bush, it's about abusing a patient, like all of them. Scientists conducted inhumane experiments over a murderer, trying to fix him of his evilness. He killed people without remorse, so when everyone says he deserves that. It's for the greater good. He will be used to improve medicine. Those atrocities will help save everyone. He is abandoned, forsaken by the society, so there's no one to protect him. One may partake in philosophical debate about sacrificing somebody for the benefit of the entire humanity. A complex question without an answer that will make most struggle. But if we imagine that this somebody who we are sacrificing is an irredeemable monster, somebody who has traits that we deem evil, I believe that most will be willing to make this sacrifice. They changed him. They found a cure, but they did not even know what this was for. He became less violent, but he lost himself in the process. But who gave us the right? Why can't we decide who we can torture for the imaginable good? Where is this line? What is evil enough? Aren't those who believe they can do this with whom they deemed fitting are truly evil? This isn't right, and that's why it's ego called regret. They regret that they did it. Nobody had that right. Abnormality is the ultimate victim. No matter how bad it could be in its story, nobody deserves that kind of treatment. Description of its ego gear in LobCorp does a great job at portraying this feeling. The suit constricts you with guilt. Expressing condolences is the least you can do while you swing this weapon. Ignore Project Moon trying to say that this abnormality is an actual person with whom the story really happened. Back then they did not have a concrete idea of abnormalities like we do now. Spoilers, ruinous, libraries. Each time that we talk about Angela, it's from Yesod's realization. I'm rereading this cutscene for the third time. Angela was made for the purpose of being a scapegoat. She's a machine, she physically can't handle eons of suffering, so it's obvious that she must. No one else could. Besides, she's not a real human, so we shouldn't feel guilty about that. A machine slowly became a numb act, losing her sense of guilt. A cycle of violence. They needed Angela to be numb so she could carry out the plan, but this numbness went too far. As the murderer who began killing anew after all the procedures. Big part of Abnormalities' vibe is a repeating and begins. This is a madman's rambling that's made to be cryptic and spooky. It's referring to his head turning into metal, but as with all cryptic things, we can try to find a deep meaning. Like again, cycle of violence, something that never truly stops. A hatred to ones like him will never stop, and he will never stop destroying. But for Angela, it is pretty easy. In her case, it's about infinite cycles that she sees, restarted days, the same deaths, and all of that. Also, the idea of head turning into metal is funny with her, given that she is metal. Because of witnessing such atrocities, she becomes more and more robotic, moving farther from her human prototype. They said they're curing a disease, never knew what disease it was. Curing humanity part of its theme is especially important for Angela, because yes, it was all for the specific idea of curing humanity from their absence of light. She was put through all of this because of, let's be honest, a really abstract and naive idea of light in the hearts of people. Of course, in the meta sense of knowing what the setting is about, it is something good. Naive concept of humanity is something incredibly important. The setting is about having humanity even in such a dark world. But in universe, this is a childish idea of a woman that happened to be the most charming and persuasive person in the whole city. What even are we curing exactly? What even is this light? Giving its ego to Merceau is a way to explore what is evil enough idea. He's not a merciless murderer, but he did murder a man. He should have got a fair trial, but instead he was deemed as the ultimate evil. Because people can't judge fairly, because no one could be truly rational. He was sentenced to decapitation, because everyone in the courtroom was fixated on the fact that he did not cry at his mother's funeral. Is this truly evil? Is this enough to give his punishment unfittingly cruel for his crime? Forsaken murderer is an extreme example for proving a point, and it could be difficult to convince someone with an extreme. It is bad to dehumanize anyone, even the ones who have done most heinous things. No, it is not, they deserve that. But it is bad to dehumanize him, a likable protagonist who we empathize with. Well, maybe. And it is easier from here. Maybe if we can understand someone, we should try to understand everyone. No matter what they have done, they are humans. No matter how much we want to take that away from them, no matter how it will be easier if they were some monstrous incarnations of evil, they are humans. Anyway, this is a long moralistic rant. It of course has other things to do with Merceau besides this whole main idea. Like, doctors trying to fix abnormality and make it normal is akin to the ending episode of the book, where the chaplain tries to persuade Merceau into repentance. His awakening phrase, "The straitjacket isn't nearly enough to hold back my violence," he will stay as himself, no matter what they try to do with him. And yeah, all this rage and violence talk is fitting for him in this context, because that interaction with chaplain drove him to, rough. In my previous video I stated that I'm more interested in Synth's affinity than before, and let's try this out. It'll take time for me to get the hang of all of them, but yeah, baby steps. I guess their wrath is about injustice, aggressive incompliance. He's treated horribly and he will not accept it. And maybe a general refusal to fit in societal boundaries. He will not change, he will not be chained. And wrath of course fits Abnormalities' flavor of violent murderer. It's always hard to analyze Faust. Not only we don't have her canto yet, we don't really know what they're going for with all those homunculus references in her. And this is what all of her egos comes down to. I try to look at Faust from the book to get what it could mean. Like, what if Mephistopheles is the doctors and Faust is the murderer? Devil trying to change him, make him more like he thinks everyone should be. But every attempt to make it deeper fell flat. He's not abused, he's trying new things, it's consensual and all, with nuances. And if you try to think about homunculus instead, even for the briefest moment, it's suddenly kind of obvious. In the literally first verses of the part where homunculus is introduced, Wagner, its creator, talks about its birth as something revolutionary. Wagner is a character as someone who strives for the spiritual, who does not seize anything of use in sensual things of flesh. And so he created this, a mind born strictly out of another mind, something without a body, without flesh to constrict it. He talks about traditional births as something of the past, because we should not need this when he can create lives this way. A nobler origin. And in narrative of the play, it is something wrong. Goethe believes in the harmony and coexistence of spiritual and sensual. Homunculus eventually yearns to be normal, to have a body. Because, as it is, it's a crime against nature, hideous attempt of a man to play God, something that he never had the right to do. Overall, this idea is quite boring, to be honest. Its subtitle lore is mostly about LobCorp. It is LobCorp ID much more than its ego ID. Which makes sense, it's the first idea like this after all. As for the small flavor things, I like how this ego gift fits her. Her words don't matter, so they sealed her mouth. It was equipped without her will, and she's okay with that. And begin to think could work the same as with Angela, if she knows about cycles, which could be possible from the way she talks about days. But even if it's not the case, it could just be a thing about days, repeating her deals and all of that. She's generally pretty similar to Angela, by the way. Again, hard to talk without knowing her lore, but we could assume that she's not a real human, just like Angela. And from that, everything that I said about her could also be said about Faust. At last, we are at our final abnormality, the one why I decided to make this video in the first place. Sleeping bag of a bygone day. Every gospel-themed abnormality is about abusing someone in a vulnerable position. This is something that I repeated time and time again. They're doing something to you. When you are too weak and fragile, when you believe them, when you can't do anything. Patient is always someone who we should pity. Someone who's treated unjustly. Always a victim. But this one is not. This abnormality is about a person who feels unbearable chest pain with each breath. someone who is tied to a bed for their whole life, who needs the help of a medical device to do as little as breathe. It is, in every way, someone who we could pity, but the way Abnormality reacts to that is what makes it interesting. It resents, it hates, it despises its condition, and it despises healthy people. The world is unimaginably cruel and unjust. While everyone is living their lives freely, it is doomed to be here, trying to grasp onto anything. And it's not burning and passionate rage, akin to murderer. It does not have enough strength nor the ability to do so. It's silent, deep and dark hatred. Because in the end, it will not change anything. Resentment, penance, all of it to no avail. No matter how bad of a mindset it is, it's pretty realistic and, well, an expected reaction to that. What can you do? It really is unfair. And this theme is pretty uncommon for the media, I think. It is kind of stigmatized. Like, those people are in a horrible position already. Why would we point fingers on them and be like, no, don't wish bad for other people, no, nobody is guilty for your condition? Of course those thoughts are bad, but it is hard. So yeah, seeing this represented is kind of cool. I can't even really remember from the top of my head any characters with the theme in other media. I guess Madoka had something like this, if I remember right. Would love to read your examples of this in the comment section. Fun fact, before Ryoshu's ego it was called Sleeping Bag of the Olden Days. Still hard to me to readjust. But why is it called like that? Well, its name is kind of abstract, so I can't tell you a definitive reason, but here's a couple of interpretations. Abnormality consists of two distinct entities, the shadow and the skeleton around it. The shadow is inside the ribcage, which covers it, protecting and trapping simultaneously. So it is safe to assume that sleeping bag part of it referring to this skeleton, and I believe that it could represent a hospital bed. And the machines that patient is connected to, like those nebulizers and the egos. A patient can't exist without this bed, it is what keeps them alive, but because of this, it is also an inescapable prison. So yeah, it is a sleeping bag, your one and only resting place for all of those bygone days. Time passes, but you are still here, the only comfort that you can't get rid of. But another interpretation that I see is the skeleton being a manifestation of all those feelings that the patient has, a construct made from hatred. A feeling so strong that it practically conceals everything else the person has. They are just a small shadow inside this giant resentment. Feelings grow numb from the years of pain, and the only things constant are suffering and hatred. I always felt like this name could be referencing the time when the patient was healthy, sleeping back of the days that were good, memories that comfort you and everything. This is even more fortified by them changing days to day in the name, like maybe some day of an incident of sorts. But it's not really fitting, a lot of stuff in the Abnormality is kind of holding on to the idea of this illness being there always. Faust blatantly just says that she never had an ability to breathe. But it still could work. This is a cool thing about abnormalities. Not every interesting idea must coexist at the same time. Abnormality can have different interpretations. As I said, the shadow is small and insignificant compared to the bag. Be it dark feelings overtaking you, or a clunky life support machine that literally occupies more space than you. The shadow is almost shrinking, fading away, leaving behind only this pile of bones. It is so fragile that if we are not trying to help it in the Mirror Dungeon event, it just fades completely, leaving everyone thinking that there never was any shadow. It never could do anything, so it just silently disappeared and nobody even noticed that. Patient is slowly dying, and death is shown there as a long deserved rest, just like in Centaur's case. Perhaps liberation is nigh. And the skill that Shadow uses in the battle, freed from the life of suffering that gives fragile, is Abnormality just asking you to kill it. It wants to be free. Besides the obvious slow death of illness theme, I can see the size dynamic of parts as an idea of your disease being bigger than you. Everyone around talks only about this. You're known for being that person with this illness. It's like you don't have your own identity anymore, like you will be remembered just as somebody who died from that. Before we will take a look at the egos of this abnormality, I want to talk about their affinity. Both Ryoshi and Faust are pride. and that works so well. It feels entitled to the ability to breathe, disdain for everyone else, because why can they breathe freely while I can't? If I feel it, you should too. Perhaps even a thought that it deserves it more than others. It finds solace in painting itself as something higher than everyone around, but in return, that mindset can hurt those who it cares about. And also, pride is poesy, and poetry is about breath, and abnormality is about breath, so... Another affinity that I think will work is envy. It envies healthy people, and not just envies, it wants to take it to itself. It steals your ability to breathe, as we see in the observation log. In the battle, it literally steals your poise, and the skill that does that is envy, and called That's Mine. I really hope that we will eventually get another ego that will be envy. Different egos of different colors, focusing on different aspects of abnormality is such an awesome concept. I can also maybe see wrath in theory, but again, I like the idea that it just kind of can be impatient and rage. It's too weak for that. So, Taurokalgia Faust. What is Taurokalgia? It is a medical term for chest pain, pretty obscure at that. Like, the Wikipedia page of it just called chest pain, and Taurokalgia is mentioned only as one of many different namings. My point is, it's a phlebotomy pack moment. In Korean, it is just chest pain Faust. Again, nothing bad with it. It definitely sounds cooler that way. Oh yeah, my favorite ego, tummy ache Rodion. So, what does it mean to Faust? Hard to believe, I know, but it is homunculus again. The bottle it resides in works wonderfully as a sleeping bag. It exists solely because it's inside of the bottle. If it shatters, the homunculus will undoubtedly die. But it wants to get free. Its birth is something unnatural. Nothing should be trapped inside the bottle. Homunculus is something incredible, something unbelievable, a new way of life. And yet, it's deprived of something that everyone around has. In the last scene that Homunculus appears, it's becoming one with the sea. It decides that this is how it wants to exist, and its bottle is shattered in the waves. In a way, it got freedom. Freedom at ceasing to exist. Just like the Mirror Dungeon event talks about death as saving. Do you recall the moment when you were allowed to breathe free for the first time? For me, now is that very moment. Coming back to what I said about different themes of abnormality and its affinity. Faust does not really have anything about stealing breath. She does not take it because she's the one who deserves it. It's more like disdain for those who can breathe freely. She shows how they don't even understand how important that is. She displays how miserable she is, and that everyone else could never understand her. Again, hard without playing her canto, but I can maybe see something about her position in Limbus company. It is of course her work, but it's definitely more than that. It's her home. She's connected to the company more than every other sinner, and she will suffer the most from anything bad that company could do. Limbus company are not the good guys in any means. I doubt that she's having it all that great. Company is the bad and the bottle. Another thing that we could look at, her intellect, I guess, like something that distances her from everyone, a part of her that also is a burden. It can be a weird thing to say, a weird message to tell, but I can see hints at that kind of story in the Warp Express Intervallo, where sinners liked her more without her Gesellschaft connection. And we could go deeper into the Gesellschaft theme, but it will turn into speculations about her story. Like, it will probably be about the contrast between Gesellschaft and Gemeinschaft. It's complex sociological concepts that for the sake of this section we can simplify. Gesellschaft being about rational worker relationships, and Gemeinschaft being about subjective feelings and personal relationships. Like, Faust will learn that she can open up to her friends, that her connection to Gesellschaft is something bad for her, that she as an individual is fading away in this, that she could learn to balance it in her life and yada yada. This is already too long, I hope you get what I'm trying to say. It will be funny to revisit those thoughts after Canto 12. Taurokalgia Ryoshi is a bit trickier. One of the things that I could see is the general position of Yoshihide in the book. He is the greatest painter in the land, working for the Lord of Harikawa. He is given a life of luxury. But his lord is an eccentric nobleman who won't stop at anything to get what he wants. So he's kind of a hostage of his position, unable to do anything to oppose him. And when Harikawa wants to teach Yoshihide a lesson, he burns his daughter alive, while Yoshihide watches it helplessly. This is the moment that I always think about every time that I hear her awakening phrase. Resentment, penance, all of it to no avail. I was only reaching out to grasp onto something, anything. No matter how he feels, he can't do anything to the Emperor. Ryoshu has a lot of spiders in her iconography. Like, she's got 3 red-eye seagulls, and, as of recently, mentioned Spider's House. Considering this, and that it's not unusual for Project Moon to reference other works from the authors of Sinner's origin books, I believe that we could look into The Spider's Thread from Ryunosuke Akutagawa. It is a story about a sinner in hell that is given a chance by Buddha to get out. He dropped a web to him, and the sinner started his climb. But he soon realized that other sinners also are trying to get out with this web. He feared that the thread will snap, and yelled to everyone to get off, because this is his web. And right after that, it snapped, leaving him to fall down in the endless sea of blood. I believe that this story can work within the Abnormality themes pretty accurately. Someone in bad condition, in endless suffering, believes that he, and only he, is entitled to the freedom from it. He hates everyone around, and is willing to deny others access to safety, just to ensure his own, trying to grasp onto anything, no matter the cost. Now let's look closely at Ryoshu as our sinner, without any books. Again, hard without her kanto, but let's try. She's also in a hostage situation. She's bound by her child, by a place that she, I suppose, hates, with a sword that she, for some reason, can't unsheath. Even in Limbus' company, she's bound by the contract. She can't go all out with her desire to slay, and she even lost her full power. She's surrounded by burdens, by something that doesn't let her to live freely. To breathe freely. Another interpretation is perhaps her different vision of art, like how she's kind of overall different from everybody, you know? To her, violence is something beautiful, and while it is a part of her, it is something that makes social interaction a bit different. She doesn't really fit in. But she's a badass and kind of doesn't care for all we know, so... Oh, and also, of course, she's smoking. Problem with breathing and everything. Maybe we even can stretch it to the smoke from the fire. Suffocating smoke from the moment when Yoshihide's daughter was burning alive. And that's finally it! The end of my longest video at the moment. Of course, I can stretch it a lot more. Like, you can call some other abnormalities hospital themed. Like, Shock Centipede. It has a lot of themes that we discussed, abuse and all. But, to me it's more about experiments than hospital and doctors. You can argue that Murderer is also more about that, but yeah, I just wanted to talk about it. And it also has a stronger vibe of hospitals, if it makes sense, like Straight Jacket. Another one that I could have covered is The Dreaming Current, but again, a thin line between doctors and experimental scientists, you know? And it also does not have any content in Limbus, so I figured that covering him will be pretty boring. And talking about him would make me cover his liberation, and it would stretch video too much, and you get the idea. Overall, grouping them as hospital themed is just an excuse to talk about a lot of abnormalities that I like in one video. Anyway, hope you liked it, I hope you stayed with me for the entirety of it. It took a long time to make. I need to deal with some stuff now, so I can't promise a video in August, but we'll see. I have a lot of ideas anyway, and I already started writing scripts for some of those. Stay tuned. Go check my other videos, like my Carmilla one is honestly underperforming, I really like it. Go check my manager Vask, go check my Patreon and Boosty. Like and subscribe, yes.